Hi there, I'm Anthony Nesbitt. Today I want to talk to you about enhancing your academic discourse with English learners using STEM activities. I apologize for not being able to do this live today. I've had a few issues with Google Hangouts linking to YouTube Live. However, I did want to give you the information and talk to you about academic discourse for English learners. So I wanted to know who's here. This presentation is basically for everyone. If you work with English learners, if you're a content teacher, if you're a STEM teacher, if you teach social studies, science, if you're an administrator, this presentation has something in it for you. So let me tell you just a little bit about myself. I'm an English language development instructor. I work with English learners. I am in a small rural district in eastern North Carolina. I'm an itinerant teacher, meaning I work with several schools at a time. This year I have 5 schools. I have 2 elementary schools, 2 middle schools, and a high school. So I see students in grades K through 12. My caseload this year is between 60 and 70 students, and I work with students at all WIDA English language proficiency levels, basically from novice speakers, newcomers, to students who have been in the program for a while and in some domains are at a level 5 or level 6, in other domains that they're just maybe at a 3 or 4. This year I was fortunate to receive a Keenan Fellowship, which is an organization that whose goal is to increase STEM. One of their initiatives is to increase STEM education in public schools. So what I was able to do with them was I was able to shadow a group of engineers this summer for about 2 weeks, and I've been able to work with the engineers and other STEM professionals to help me implement some STEM activities with my English learners. While doing that, I really discovered that my students started speaking more, and they really were more engaged. And so, why STEM activities? Why are they important? Well, first of all, most of the challenges, most of the activities that are the STEM activities are inquiry-based activities. And those kind of activities that begin with the question, why do plants grow? What makes plants grow? These are things that begin students to talk. And that's the one thing I noticed, that a lot of my students, I had trouble motivating to speak. Well, using these activities and these challenges, they immediately want to speak. So that's one big advantage of STEM activities. A lot of the challenges and activities are hands-on. These students are engaged. They're experiencing the vocabulary and the language that we're trying to teach them. So that's one really strong component of the STEM activities, that they're hands-on. Students can experience them. Most all of them are multidisciplinary. All of the ones I've done this year involve science, math, reading, writing, across all disciplines. And that's so important. And as English learners, they're also multi-domain centered. So students at the same time can engage in academic speaking, academic writing, and they're reading academic materials as well. The challenges are real. These are not things that I make up. These are real questions. A lot of times the questions come from students. We sometimes have read a story and they say, well, can a troll really build a bridge to, to so that a goat can cross? Well, let's try that. What would it take? So a lot of those are authentic and real questions. And so when they have that curiosity and something that piques their interest, they want to engage more. So all of those things I've found has helped just motivate the students to speak more. The challenge is also, in addition to being fun, hands-on, and real-world based, they're teaching the students the skills they need for the careers that will dominate the next 20 years. We've all heard about the leaky STEM pipeline, how we just can't we can't educate students to fill the jobs that are being created, the STEM fields. Well, I'm hoping that these activities will give them the skills and the interests that they will continue to learn about STEM activities and want to go into the STEM fields. This is a quote I took from the text, Making Content Comprehensible for English Learners, the SIOP model. The quote goes as such. It says, as students are learning in and through a new language, English teachers must create ample opportunities to practice using academic language, not just social language. So that academic language is important. We as teachers have to create activities so that they can use it. It's recommended that English learners have daily opportunities to talk about content in pairs or small groups, practicing extending materials already taught. Unfortunately, this is not the case. In a classroom observation study, there's evidence of academic dialogue and discussion in only 0.5% of the 1,500 classrooms observed. That fact just startled me, that so few students, based on their study, they are receiving that opportunity, those opportunities to engage in academic dialogue and discussion. So that really spurred me to find things that would encourage students and allow students to use academic language in a more often and in a much richer setting. So this next slide, I want to talk about how STEM activities, and I keep saying STEAM because sometimes art is thrown in there. So it's just, I wanted to make sure I explain what STEM means. STEM is science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. The term has really become so popular. I sort of forgot to explain it for anyone who does not know. Sometimes you'll see STEAM, science, technology, engineering, art, and math put in as well. So how do those activities compare and relate to the second language acquisition best practices? Well, first of all, as an English language development instructor, my primary goal is to teach students language, and the STEM activities sort of come as a result, sort of, if you will, the vehicle that language is conducted through. So it's a lot of what I do is still rooted in the second language acquisition best practices. So to begin with, there is that vocabulary, those tier 2 and tier 3 words, those content specific, those real academic words that students need, that they don't often see. Some of the words that I've used and students have used, quite frankly, germinate, cultivate, just to name a few. They even use the word fauna recently. So these are words that we begin every activity front loading that vocabulary. And those are those words that they will use in other disciplines, and they will use directly when talking about the challenge or the activity. So that's the first thing, and that's a second language acquisition best practice. Front loading higher order or tier 3 and tier 2 vocabulary words. The other thing that's very important in a second language acquisition class is hands-on realia. models, things they can experience. When students experience and see things that are real to them, then they are much more. They last a lot longer. They can build background. They are able to capture that and retain it a lot more. The other second language acquisition best practice that I use is the questioning and feedback. IRF versus IRE. For example, IRF is where a question is initiated, a student gives a response, and you give more feedback, asking them another question, a follow-up question, tying it to something else, having another student respond. That's something that is a practice that I do as a teacher, and students need to have that so it continues to the conversation continues, as opposed to IRE, which is an initiated question. The student gives a response, and you give an evaluation. Yes, that is correct, or no, that is correct, and it stops. So more IRF and less IRE, more feedback, more questions, more building, and that keeps the conversation going and provides opportunities for students to continue the discourse. So for the next few slides, I want to just talk about some of the challenges and activities that I've done with students. One of the first ones that I did was called Ant Picnic. This is a very fun, easy one to do. So what Ant Picnic is a way to have students classify, identify, and basically compare and contrast the kinds of ants they see in the community. So it's very easy to set up. The first thing is you need I use 4 or 3 index cards. And on each of the index cards, you put a different kind of medium. You can put, say, honey. I put cookies on another one. I put cream cheese on another one, and maybe something salty like a potato chip. And so you leave them outside for a few hours or even overnight. And the different kinds of ants, there are different species of ants. This is something that was new to me and to my students. We did not realize there were different species and different kinds of ants in our neighborhood, in our schoolyard. So we leave them out, and we were able to classify, compare the different species of ants, and even we were able to create a bar graph so they could explain the number of ants. And using with that information, they immediately had the resources to, along with the vocabulary and sentence frames, they immediately had that opportunity to engage in those academic discussions. And so students were saying things like, I was surprised that the number of this particular species of ant was more prevalent than another kind of species of ant. So really using those academic vocabulary and those science discourse structures. And we had some debates. We had students who did not agree. They respectfully disagreed and offered another explanation. So it was really interesting and fun to see students involved in that kind of discourse.